Hey guys, welcome to week 9 of the James study. Today's going to be a fairly short lesson, but an important one. We're going to be talking about arrogance versus humility and what that means in respect to God. So first, let's start with arrogance. James 4:13 through 17 says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit, yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin." So have you ever heard the expression "Lord willing"? Uh, it's just like something someone would normally say in front of a plan or some kind of thing that they hope for. Lord willing, this happens. Lord willing, we make it here. Lord willing, this blessing comes your way. And what that is just a recognition in your everyday life that God is in control. Arrogance in our lives can be obvious, like the kind of people who think they're God's gift to earth, the best thing since sliced bread. Everyone knows a person who may be like that, or you may have even been arrogant about something in your own life and, think you got it all figured out and just think you're above something. But that's not exactly what this is talking about in terms of like our everyday life. This is talking about an arrogant attitude towards God, because the example in the verse that we just read is subtle. It's just like, oh, we're going to go do this. And, we all do that. We all have our idea of what our future holds and what our plans are. And sometimes we forget to take that step back and realize that what God has for us is what we should be willing to do and what we should plan to do. So when we talk about our plans for the future, it doesn't seem like we're really doing anything, but sometimes we can be ignoring the fact that what our plans aren't always the plans that God has for us. And so it's not arrogant to make plans for the future or to handle your business like the verse was talking about. It's not arrogant to, try and run your business well and, make a profit or whatever it is. The arrogance comes in when you act like you have everything figured out and when you rely on yourself and not God. So, taking it back all the way to the Garden of Eden. The first sin originated from the idea that Adam and Eve had the right to question God. It came from a desire to be self-sovereign. So they thought that they should be in the know, which shows they did not rely fully on God. So, the story goes that there was a tree, and I don't mean this as in it wasn't real. I just mean that, we read this in the Bible, of course. But there was a tree that could give them the knowledge of, things that God withheld from them. And that was the idea, is that the serpent tricked them into like, you can be like God if you eat from this tree. And so when Eve was fooled and then ate from the tree, and also Adam decided to do the same thing, that was what brought sin into the world. The arrogant attitude of, I need to know something more than what God allows me, or I need, anything past what God has for me. That attitude we see at the very beginning of time when, sin was brought into the world that, bled through the rest of human existence. And so God cares for his children, so we shouldn't want for anything besides him. We should know that he is enough for us. And that's where the humility aspect comes in when we talk about arrogance versus humility, because a humble heart knows that God has given him or her these things. An arrogant heart consumes God's grace without gratitude. It thinks it has it all figured out, like it did anything to earn it. And so, we've talked about God's blessings before, and we talked about how nothing you can do can earn these things. That's why it's God's grace, because, grace is him giving us something that we don't deserve. And when we look at all these things that we're blessed with, sometimes we can kind of feel like, oh, I did that. Oh, I got this. Oh, I earned it. And the truth of the matter is that nothing we could ever do could afford God's blessings. And so God gives us these things out of his love for us and for no other reason. So when we look at our lives, we should do so with a humble heart, because a humble heart recognizes this. When we talk about the things we have, or when we talk about our plans, we should keep God in mind. And when we talk about the things we have, we should keep God in mind. Because whenever we, plan for the future or look at the way that our life is right now, we should see God in that. We should see the amazing things that he has given to us. No matter how big or how small it may be, God provided that for us. So resting in God isn't just a rule to follow. It's an intentional act of humility, dependence, trust, and obedience. And this is what resting in God looks like. It's knowing that he is there for us, he provides for us, and he will give us those things that are necessities to our lives because he loves us this much. So when we rest in God, we rely on him. But being humble and relying on God doesn't just apply to making future plans. It also applies to worrying about the future. So, there could be the arrogant attitude of like, oh, this is going to happen. But also, we can't be filled with anxiety for the future. Now, of course, we have the anxiety is a real thing. And, because I have it I know plenty of people who do. And it's not necessarily just being worried. It's getting caught up in that and being like, that's consuming you. So it's not just being arrogant thinking you have it figured out. It can also be worrying too much that you don't have it figured out because you're not trusting in God to help you in the future. And so if you believe that God is in control, then you should not worry about what tomorrow brings. So I encourage you all to read Matthew 6:25-33 when Jesus talks about the remedy for worry. And this is a really good passage. It we've used it before when we've talked about anxiety in a previous video. I'm pretty sure it was one of the videos very early at the start. But a specific verse that I wanted to talk about was Matthew 6:33, which says, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." So when we seek God first and rely completely on him, we don't have to worry about what tomorrow brings because we know that no matter what happens, he has us in his hands. So, it can be difficult. It truly can, believe me, to not worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. This is the thing that I probably struggle with the most, is just to not worry about things that I know are in God's hands. And so, it is difficult, but when we truly rely on him, we'll see in a more clear perspective the blessings that he provides for us and the plan that he has for us. So to summarize, an arrogant person either thinks they have it all under control or doubts God's ability to care for them. On the other hand, a humble person relies on God for everything, allows God to guide his life, and knows that God will take care of them. Humility is a denial of self and a reliance on God. So our prayer for this lesson should be one of thankfulness for what God's done for us, for who he is, for the sovereignty he has over our lives, and a prayer to know what God has, the plan that he has, to reveal that to us in his time, which is part of relying on him, and to ask for his guidance in our lives, and also to be, like I said, thankful for the blessings that he has already bestowed upon us. All right, guys, that's it for this week, and I hope to see you back next week for week 10. All right, bye, guys.